Welcome to America's Commercial Real Estate Show, your source for market intel, forecasts, and strategies. Hello, I'm Michael Bull. Thank you for being with us. This show is brought to you by Commercial Agent Success Strategies. Check it out. It's 21 one-hour videos for experienced commercial agent training, and you download them. No, you don't download them. You listen to them online through the cloud. Learn more at commercialagentsuccess.com. Well, we have another interesting show for you today. I think what CEOs think, what big companies are doing, and their thoughts moving forward can really impact the economy, jobs, and impact the commercial real estate market in a big way. Are they expanding? What do they think about the economy? What do they think about real estate and how that's the work from home and all that's impacting their industry? Well, you're in for a treat. Please welcome my guest. It's Roger Yang, and he's a partner with the National Real Estate Practice with KPMG. Roger, thank you for joining us, sir.
Hey, Michael, thanks so much for having me.
And this survey you guys do, it's your ninth annual edition of CEOs. You guys interview 1,300 CEOs, and 400 of those CEOs in the U.S. And these are mostly pretty big companies, right?
They are. I would say of the 400, I think over a third of them have revenues, work with companies with revenues over 10 billion and cover about a dozen or so industry sectors.
Yeah. And before we get into some of the nuts and bolts there, kind of what was the kind of overall theme that you got out of the survey this year?
Yeah. So when you go through it, really four key themes that we saw really surface, and one of them was around this just CEOs' overall thought and feelings about confidence and growth in this age of what we're calling compound volatility. Another theme, which is so prevalent today, is investments in generative AI, uh, as well as ESG. And then the third one is really around talent and culture. And I think you talked about that a little bit, Michael. Just, what are CEOs thinking about workforce returning to office? So those are the four that really came out pretty strong in the survey.
Yeah. And what about confidence and growth? What did you hear from them?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think overall, the leaders, business leaders, they're confident. I think they're confident in the overall long-term growth prospects of the U.S. and global economies. But it's interesting that their confidence, it's actually a little more subdued when it comes to their growth of their own company. And this is really due to what they've called disruptive risks and structural shifts in the economy. And these risks are coming, really from all directions. Disruption, structural change, could be inflation, obviously high cost of capital. You've got energy, you've got climate change. Uh, Everyone's experiencing labor market shifts, but certainly, and gosh, the survey was taken just in August of September, and you look at how much has changed in the world even since then. So, and in fact, of the CEO surveyed, you got about 28% that still feel they're unprepared for a cyber attack.
Mm.
And that's not due to lack of investment. It's just they feel that there's always catch up, and they're becoming more and more sophisticated out there, and the threat of attack remains. So, I would say overall optimistic, but we talk about some of these challenges, and the disruptive challenges again. Geopolitics and political uncertainty. You've got emerging and disruptive technology, and then certainly on structural changes. I think 80% see the cost of living being a structural change, 77% in the regulatory area, and then 76% with disruptive technology. So pretty optimistic, but definitely some challenges that are out there.
Yeah, well, it's good to hear that they're optimistic overall. And when you mentioned cyber attacks, it seems like um, that gets a little tougher too if you have folks kind of working from anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Mhm.
and that ties in well, with with their thoughts on getting people back into the office. But on back on your question on just overall growth, though, too. I mean, I think it's interesting when you compare, and again, we do this survey every year, and the CEO confidence of growth in their own company is 79% were confident in the growth prospects of their own company. And that's actually down
Mm.
from 95% from the year before. And that's interesting, right? I mean, in only a year, how much that could decline. And however, confidence in the U.S. economy is still about 84%, and in the global economy, that's down to 77% as well. So, yeah, yeah. Again, I think agility is key, and I think so, we have here 7 out of 10 CEOs think that they're adapting to their growth strategy to meet some of these challenges, and yeah, overall ready to create opportunity as it persists.
Yeah. And what did you get from the CEOs this year related to getting folks back in the office and their thoughts there? It seems like some folks are in the camp that, hey, people working from anywhere is cheaper, you get more talent. But then some folks saying, there's a lot of challenges with that. What did they tell you?
Yeah, I think the headline here is that certainly the U.S. CEOs, they envision a future with more workers coming back into the office, and they're willing to reward those workers who do. And it's tough. I mean, it's all about the employee value proposition, right? And how do you convince them that coming into the office, it's not only best for them, individually in their professional development, but obviously also to achieve the overall company's growth objectives over whether it's the next 2 3 years. Um, and look, it's culture, right? Even within KPMG, it's culture is everything. And 83% of the CEOs surveyed, not surprisingly, right? I mean, their organization's success, including growth, it really depends on having a strong culture. So, but to get down to it, in the next 3 years, and this is interesting, CEOs, expect corporate employees, who are traditionally based in the office. Okay. And the survey now, they think 62% of those will be back in the office.
Hmm.
62%. That's interesting because a year ago, that same percentage was only 34%.
Wow.
Yeah. So, man, it's almost doubled, right? You got 34% believe it'll remain hybrid. That's compared to 45% last year, and only 4% think it'll be fully remote, and that's compared to 20%
Wow.
last year. So those are big drop offs, and I think we'll continue to see that shift. Um, and again, the last one again, as I mentioned, 90%, almost, all of them, all the CEOs say that they're likely to reward employees who are going to make an effort to come into the office with either favorable assignments or raises or promotions. So
Yeah.
obviously have an impact on commercial real estate there.
Yeah. Well, it seems like if you're employee and want to grow and do well, you want to be seen. You want to be around the C-suite if you can, but just be around folks. What else do you hear from the CEOs in this survey related to real estate? Anything about what type of changes they might make to the real estate, or anything kind of jump out to you there?
It didn't not too much on point, but I do think when you look at office configurations, the idea of more collaborative space, pure hoteling, I think that will continue to be a trend. I think also having the ancillary services are important. And look, there's a good section within the survey. ESG is continues to be top of mind, and CEOs expect significant returns from their ESG investments. And part of that is making sure that they are ESG is top of mind in commercial real estate, right? And making
Mm,
sure that the their office needs are meeting the expectations of their professionals from an ESG standpoint as well.
yeah. And of course, everybody's talking about AI today. What did you get? What'd you hear there?
Yeah, it's it's interesting. It's so fluid, right? And no doubt, investment in generative AI, it's a top priority for the CEOs, but they're so weary of navigating the ethical challenges and quite frankly the lack of regulation. Um, I think it's 72% of CEOs say that generative AI it's a top investment priority, despite the uncertain economic conditions, and the vast majority said they're actually willing to put more capital into buying new technology than actually developing their workforce's skills and capabilities. I mean, it's
Mm,
about 60-40 split, but I think they realize that they have to put the investment dollars there. They expect a return. Most think the return is between 3 to 5 years. You've got 20% or so that they think they're going to see a return in less than 3 years. But certainly the concern around ethical usage and the need for regulation was top of mind.
yeah, I saw a description of some real estate the other day. That's AI generated. I could read it. That's not really what that property looks like. Uh, well, where do CEOs see opportunities moving forward, Roger?
Yeah, it's I with respect to M&A, and I think you talked about it in one of your previous episodes as well. Y- I think the notion of um, rates being higher, longer, price discovery, um, uh, certainly from a growth standpoint, uh, CEOs are they are prepared to seize transformational opportunities, right? And I
Mhm.
think over half of them think that they will grow, inorganically, with significant impact. Whereas only a third think that they'll take on um, uh, uh, acquisitions with just moderate impact. But I think there's some preconditions. I think in order to really um, prioritize inorganic growth, obviously the availability of financing continues to be a challenge.
Mhm.
We see, while the Fed has signaled that they've taken, lowering rates off the table for now, for next year, hopefully the um, having the confidence that at least it won't continue to significantly go up, taking the uncertainty out of that will lead to more activity. I think 35%, of the CEOs just overall require more stable market conditions in order to continue to go down the path of M&A.
Yeah. I suppose this question wasn't there, but I'm curious of your thoughts on it, and maybe it was. But one of the things we're seeing is some companies are buying office properties while the this is a depressed market, right? The larger the office building and the more CBD type locations, the cheaper these properties seem to be getting, and we see a lot of companies, buying buildings while the market's so good. Was did you get a sense for that in your survey?
Not on point, but
Mhm.
certainly, you're hearing, in the larger cities, that's absolutely the case. I think there's a lot of, it could be foreign capital, could be capital obviously here within the US with all the dry powder. I think absolutely. And I think next year could be a big year for those
Yeah, I think
opportunistic buys.
yeah. Yeah, these companies can probably go in and create their own environment that they need and want to get their employees back and be profitable, but maybe get in buildings where their base is, maybe half or sometimes a third of what these buildings sold for recently. And I assume one day we'll go back to those values. So it could potentially be a windfall. Anything else kind of jump out from you from the survey, Roger?
Yeah, those were really the four big themes,
Hmm.
coming out of there was um, growth and again, just overall confidence. I think it's a little more optimistic than we thought, but confidence and growth and disruptive technology, generative AI, continued focus on ESG and talent and culture. I think those
All
really
right.
were the four main themes.
Well, perfect, and I love the seeing the transition from last year to this year, and seeing the changes there. That's pretty amazing. Is it okay we put a link on the show website to the actual survey?
That'd be great.
All right, good. We'll do that. Roger, thanks for joining us. Great information. Thanks for being on the show.
All right, Michael, thank you for having me.
All right. Well, that was
All right.
Roger Yang, and he's a partner, national real estate practice with KPMG with their 2023 CEO outlook. It's kind of interesting to see what companies are thinking moving forward. I like the kind of the positive aspect of what they're thinking moving forward. And I like their thoughts on getting folks back to the office because I think it's great in most cases for the employees and the companies. Well, thanks for joining us around the country. Thanks for sharing the show. Please connect with us if I can help you in any way. You have any questions, reach out to me. My email is an easy one. It's michael@bullrealty.com. Until next week, be sure that you always lead, learn, and laugh, and join us for America's Commercial Real Estate Show. America's Commercial Real Estate Show is brought to you by Bull Realty. For commercial brokerage sales and leasing in the Southeast U.S., contact our show host by email at michael@bullrealty.com. By Commercial Agent Success Strategies, 21 incredible one-hour agent training videos. Learn more at commercialagentsuccess.com. And by Lument. For senior housing, healthcare, and multifamily financing, visit lumet.com. For more podcasts and videos, subscribe and visit creshow.com.